Hi, I'm Dr. Kimberlee Mendoza, and this is a new episode of Blue Fire Faith. I have to apologize that I have not been on here for a while. I've been so sick and busy, and it's just been insane trying to find time to do this, but I am on here today. God has given me a message, and I thought, you know what? It's time for me to get back to my channel. So I want to talk about our faith in a different way today. This is, every time I talk about faith, it's Blue Fire Faith, but this is a little different, I think, scenario that I'm going to run us through that just kind of came to me, and I'm going to start with a verse for us just right off the gate. Hebrews 1:1, faith is the confidence that we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things we cannot see. And I know, as we talk about two different kinds of faith, there's faith in believing that God will do something. And then there's our walk, our faith that we needs to be, hot and burning. And I think sometimes they feed into each other, how, as we believe for things and then God does things, then we have stronger faith. And I understand that. I've walked through that myself, as I watch God do miracles, but the interesting thing is the more we believe, the more we see. It's not, one or the other. It really is both and if we continually to believe for things, then we'll start to see things. It's just how it kind of works. It's like our eyes start to be open to the spiritual world a little more. We start to see things that maybe we didn't see before. And so it's pretty interesting how they build on each other. But I think often we only see the storms in life. And so I have a story for you. A long time ago, I think I saw a movie about this. And so it was in my notes. And I was like, oh, I'd forgotten all about that. So it's about this bird named Firebird. And this bird couldn't fly yet and liked the sun and how the sun felt, but wondered why there were clouds. And the mother said, when you get old enough and you can fly, this will all make sense to you. But right now it just doesn't because you're not able to fly. So eventually the bird is, able to fly. But the day that she's ready to take flight, Firebird has a big storm in front of her. And so how that can go is, she's trying to fly, but it's really hard and she feels like she's going to fall. And any second she could just give up and say, you know what, it's just not happening. I'm not going to be able to fly. But instead, she perseveres and she pushes through and she gets above the clouds and she sees the sun. And I like this when you think about it in a Christian standpoint, because often in life, we are praying for something and there's storms in life and it seems like, it's just getting stronger and worse. And really, we just need to keep persevering and eventually we'll see the sun, S-O-N, above the cloud lines, above the storms that we're going through. So it brings me to a biblical story you've probably heard of before. Zacchaeus, we know, if you know the story, if you don't, it's found in Luke 19:1-10. So Zacchaeus, Jesus is coming to town and he wants to see Jesus. And so he makes the effort to climb a tree and so he can see over the crowd because he's a wee little man, is what we used to sing in Sunday school. And so he gets up into the tree so he can see Jesus as he passes by, and Jesus takes notice of him and the effort that he made, and then asks this man to come and dine with him, or let him come dine with him. And so he ends up not only seeing Jesus, but he actually gets to spend time with Jesus. And this is probably, and of course the world freaked out about that because he was not a good man. But that's, Jesus will, if we stop and try to get to him, he will always make himself available to us. And so even though people might tell you, stop praying, don't worry about it anymore, it's not going to happen, get over it. I mean, you can pray 99 times and give up and never see the miracle, or you can pray 100 times and maybe that's the time that the miracle happens. You just never know. I wrote down a very interesting statistic. I don't know if you know this, but Edison failed to make the light bulb 2,774 times, but he did it. Okay. He had a quote. He said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. And so we have to climb. We have to get in our tree. We have to believe that Jesus will stop and be there for us. And you will notice mostly in scripture, if you read all the way through the Bible, that when we come to get closer to the Lord, that is when the Lord draws closer to us. It's almost always happens that way. And so, you have to rise up and get in the tree. Now, your faith may be lacking a little bit, but so let me give you a little encouragement. Maybe you just need a little encouragement. This is not spiritual in nature, but it's truth in nature. And so maybe you can apply it to your spiritual life or whatever you're praying for. I just find it super encouraging. So hopefully it will be encouraging to you. So Michael Jordan, you probably know who that is. He was actually cut from his high school basketball team. Lucille Ball was dismissed from drama school for being too shy. It's crazy, right? Kipling, who, is a big, huge author, he was said that he did not know how to use the English language by the San Francisco Examiner. Winston Churchill failed 6th grade and didn't become prime minister until he was 62. So by the way, if you're an older person watching my channel, it's never too late to fulfill your dreams. Never, until you are, 6 feet under, you keep going. Steven Spielberg learned in a disability class and dropped out in school in junior high and never returned. That's just really hard to believe, right? Let's see. Pasteur, the person who helped us figure out our milk or whatever, he ranked 15 out of 22 in chemistry. Pretty amazing. Marilyn Monroe was told by the Blue Book Modeling Agency, you better learn secretarial work or else get married because you're not pretty enough. The Beatles, Decca Recording Company said, we don't like their sound. Groups with guitars are on their way out. Boy, I bet they felt stupid later. The manager of the Grand Ole Opry fired Elvis Presley after just one performance, saying, you ain't going nowhere, son. You ought to go back driving a truck. Alexander Graham Bell, who did the telephone, President Rutherford Hayes says, that's an amazing invention, but who will ever want one of them? Abraham Lincoln failed in business twice and had a nervous breakdown and was defeated in 8 elections. Let's see. Van Beethoven, he was actually deaf, and almost all of his, symphonies that are really well known were after he found out he was deaf. English novelist John Creasy got rejected 753 times, but then he published 564 books. Henry Ford failed 2 companies before Ford. Babe Ruth struck out 1,330 times, but he also hit 714 home runs. And Walt Disney was told by a newspaper that he lacked imagination. So hopefully these are encouraging to you. Whatever you're praying for, whatever you're waiting for, whatever someone's telling you, whatever dream you're shooting for and you're being shot down, you have to have faith that God is going to direct you in the path that you have. I honestly never knew I was supposed to be a professor. I seriously thought I was supposed to be a youth pastor. I spent my whole life going in that direction, and it just wasn't happening. Everything was kind of falling apart and not pushing me in that direction, and I was kind of booted out of ministry for a while, and it was just really disconcerting. And in that, because I took an adjunct job, I found out, hey, oh my goodness, I actually like teaching. And when a student said, wow, you reached me for God in an English class, oh my goodness, I found my calling, So you have to trust the process. You have to trust that God is in control. Sometimes when the door is closed, you hear the expression, a window is open, but sometimes it's just a different door you're supposed to walk through, and that is okay. And so if you're really close to God, your desires will start to line up with His desires. And there's also other reasons why our prayers don't get answered. Possibly the seat you're supposed to be sitting in as, in a job, the person that's still sitting in it isn't being obedient to God and stepping down from that role. And so it's not open yet. Or maybe they're waiting on a miracle and their miracle hasn't happened yet. So a progression thing can happen. Or maybe you're looking for the wrong thing and you haven't been honest with yourself of that God is telling you that's not it for you. I have something better for you. And so maybe you're not being completely obedient yourself. It could be that your family's not ready. It could be that you're not ready, and maybe there's still things you need to go through. I know that had I gone for a doctorate right after my master's degree, I would have failed miserably. But after my master's degree, I started teaching English, and it's amazing how much you learn teaching something. And so it prepared me to do my doctorate. And so I just wasn't ready. And so sometimes we're just not ready, and we need to wait and grow. And while you're waiting, I don't know about you. Did you ever work in I worked in Kenny's shoe store. I don't know if you remember Kenny's shoe store, but when we were waiting for a customer, we didn't just sit down and twiddle our thumbs. We were supposed to be wiping down counters and dusting shoes and always doing different things in the store so that when a customer walked in, we didn't look bored, but we looked like we were doing something. And if you worked fast food, you probably had that same process. You're always supposed to be looking like you're doing something, even if you're not. So the point of that is, while you're waiting for God to answer your prayer, don't sit and twiddle your thumbs and be, oh, woe is me, God's not answering my prayer. Instead, learn from it, seek other things, keep moving forward. Like, Edison said, you need to keep moving forward or you'll fall off the bicycle, And so, get up in the tree, try to see what God is trying to say to you. Maybe there's something beyond you. Or are you in the crowd listening to what other people are saying? Or are you just so busy that you are, Jesus is walking right by you and you haven't had time to pray, and so he just moves by you? I mean, think about all of those scenarios. Had Zacchaeus not climbed up in the tree, he never would have met Jesus, right? He could have been in the crowd. He's so short, he would have not even been able to see Jesus walk by, or maybe he'd barely get a glimpse of him, right? Or maybe he was, busy, counting his money, and so Jesus just walked right by and he totally missed him. We have to stop. We have to wait on the Lord and wait for his perfect timing and whatever it is that he's trying to share with us. So that is my message today. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, go ahead and like it down below and share with others. That's how, YouTube lets, that we like the content or whatever. And that's when it usually will let us do more. So thank you so much for joining me today. Once again, if you have not got my book, check out Toward Faith. It will hopefully help you on your path to Blue Fire Faith. Take care. Bye-bye.